change play history. And so all of us have had experiences in the past where we would have loved to have been a little more playful. Maybe it was a social gathering or something. We would have enjoyed having a resource there. And so that you can imagine that you have been playful in the past, we're going to fit some resources into the past, in moments in the past where you would enjoy being more successful in your play. So first of all, what we're going to do is you're going to access a playful state, a resource state. And so sometimes maybe that involves a little bit of creativity. Sometimes you may be thinking about, well, does that mean I have the ability to kind of think of things that interest others, so that in a social situation you are talking about things that actually are interesting, being creative, being flexible. So you'll be thinking of some things, in fact, that are the resources that you sense you'd enjoy having in this play state. So then you'll anchor that resource. So then you'll make a break a state from that, ask the person what they were doing yesterday or something like that, and then ask the person to access a time in the past that there was unsuccessful play, and have the person nod their head when they're remembering that, and so then you anchor that. That's a good idea to set up.
Unsuccessful play?
At a party, kind of, and not quite able to interact, maybe. In a play setting, in a dancing or something, and not quite being able to dance, not being able to let go somewhere. What about moments when it would have been good to be playful, somewhat where...
Right.
Okay. So then you'll access an unsuccessful experience in the past, all right, and get an anchor on that, okay, and then you'll access another moment in the past where you've been unsuccessful in your play, and anchor that, okay, and anchor it in the same spot, so you're chaining anchors, all right. So then when you've got a few anchors from the past and you've chained them into one spot, okay, then make a break of state from that, then ask the person to access the resourceful state and fire off the resource state while the person's accessing it. Watch for the behavioural manifestation of that internal response to see that you have got the resource state there, alright, and you'll then have the person, and you'll remember this moment in the past that where you would enjoy resourcefulness being there, fire off the resource, holding the both together for that moment, and then release the stuck state whilst you're holding the resource state. Then once you've done that, then take the person into the future, some moment where they're sensing they would enjoy being a little more playful, and fire off the resource state in the future, so that you're future pacing the resource of the person that you've set up with the person. Now, do this quite methodically, okay? Because the reason why is because you'll learn a little bit like a cookbook approach here that will enable you then to kind of be doing that just in your talking without having to actually go through the formality of doing this. But do it in a way that's formal here now, because if you learn it in this way, you can always do it in a formal way, alright? The main thing is that you develop ability to be creative in the change processes, change techniques that you're using, and that you can be flexible in the way that you use it.
Well, a minute, when you were talking a while ago, I was in a trance and I missed part of it that I think is part of me at a conscious level.
Yes.
It's just something about attributes of the resourceful state having to do with playfulness.
Yes.
And what did you say about that?
Okay, so sometimes you might enjoy being creative too. See, really get into the resource to make sure that you've got the resources that you would like to have in that playful state. Sometimes it would be maybe it's being more accepting of something, perhaps, maybe in a playful state people are kind of not so playful but like chillest kind of happiness or something, and that you would enjoy being a little bit more playful in that kind of a setting, perhaps,
so
rather than being serious. Maybe
you're taking the resource state into the unsuccessful.
That you're going to build a resource state, and then you're going to be able to use that resource state after you've anchored and got some stuck state in the history, and then and you can chain them all together into one place. The main thing is that when you are doing this in the brain, the touch is becoming paired to this as a stimulus to initiate that response that you're wanting from the person. And that you are learning it in this way. And in fact, that is what's occurring. Without touch, there's a way for you to be anchoring things like this. You can simply get a word for that moment in the past, which brings back the whole memory. That's an anchor. Okay? So the main thing is, let's do it with touch, okay? Because that's the strongest way to get an anchor on things. All right? Okay, any questions? Okay. Probably a good idea to do this in threes. Okay? So each of you now, there will be 3 here. Okay? 3. Actually, let's split David and Terry up. Okay, so someone join Penny and David. Who hasn't been with Penny or David? Okay. So if you feel you'd like to go to another spot to do this.
Is it called?
So A is going to be doing this to B, and C is going to be overviewing the whole process. And C will be able to whisper into A's ear things if you need to do that.
Yeah, I'll put it in this number. I can refresh. Thank you.
Okay, so this is on page 73 of the text of the Practitioner's Manual. If you want to just Practitioner's Manual, page 73.
Well, I think I use the color that way.
73.
First of all,
I don't know. I didn't like that. All right.
Hey, look at her.
This animal has been here. Was that on or off? Okay. We've just been talking about tracking, and we've said that tracking really is the art of seeing something that's sensory specific, that enables you to know that that animal has been there, or this person is doing something. I gave the example before of someone telling me to do something, and then you see me kind of pushing away with my feet. Well, then that's a track. That's a track dissociating, actually. Now, possibly it's dissociating from what it was that you asked me to do. If you saw something else happen where I was dissociating again, like I moved away, then for sure you would know there's a pattern there. If you see something twice occur, then you can know for sure that it's a pattern, possibly in this person's life. Okay? So sometimes you'll be wanting to see something, see evidence of something, experience evidence of something twice to see possibly that it's a pattern, and you go, aha. And so you're always fitting what you're tracking into a context of something occurring. And it's the context that provides the meaning. So, I gave the example about someone having an Oedipus complex. That might not be anything that you have tracked. And so we're going on things actually that you can experience, that we feel. Okay. Tomorrow when we come back, if you have any questions on what it is that you read here from pages 23 to 33, and if you have any questions on the vestibular paper, I think that we're wanting to answer those tomorrow, before we start. So come prepared with some questions from the reading or something that you would like to have clarified. This is the best way learning can occur. If you come prepared tomorrow, everyone will learn in the morning something because of what it is that you are highlighting. Maybe it's something that for you is reinforced. And that we can enrich each other's learning if we do this, okay? Alright. So, you Dave?
This is maybe a tangent. Down the line in Casaneda's book is talking about stalking.
Yeah.
Is stalking in any way related to the tracking you're referring to?
Okay, now stalking is the choice to change destiny. Stalking gives you the choice to change destiny, your destiny. Stalking is the act of making something physical. The more in the future that you make something physical now, That's what stalking is. So when we do sessions on shamanism, that's one thing that we're teaching people to do, is to stalk things. And so we might make a dream stalking stick, and on that dream stalking stick we put things the person finds and puts on the stick is actually symbolic of something the person's wanting actually to achieve in life, and that this is a reminder. Sometimes I would say that this medicine out there that people are practicing truly is keeping the people amused while nature takes its course, and how much sense it makes for you to put some intent into something that you're making, and the ingredients that go in and the intent that goes into this can be sometimes what it is that truly creates the change. So stalking is the choice, giving you the choice to change destiny. Stalking, if I was wanting to build something in the future, or if I had a person that I wanted to stalk, maybe I bring their photo into my life and I put it somewhere where I can see their photo, and it's reminding me of this person. Sometimes I do this with somebody that I'm working with, in the healing process. I ask them to send me a photo, or send me a photo of their horse if their horse is wanting this, so that you are making something physical. The more that you make your dream physical, the more likely it is that you have the ability to see what it is that's there, to have choice. Stalking is the art of arriving somewhere and everything being taken care of before you arrive. If you've stalked properly, then that's what's occurred. So stalking is the art of arriving somewhere and totally being comfortable, having set up things in a way that you are arriving there comfortably. Stalking would be the art of going there ahead of time.
The same as future pacing.
Like future pacing, but however, it's really, stalking really is the art of making something tangible, that's in the future here, so I can kind of see it and look at it and have more choice about that in the future. Whereas tracking is the art of being able to observe the signs that somebody's leaving behind, physical evidence of something that you're seeing. So it would be no use you and I saying, oh, so-and-so kind of dissociates. Whenever we talk about mother, this person dissociates. I would ask you, what is it that you have seen yourself? Not what somebody said to you, but what is it that you've seen yourself? And if you've seen something, then I'm saying that's tracking. And otherwise, forget it. I think it's a good idea to have experience and have tracked something, actually, to go on.
With prospective customers or clients.
Right.
And I see tracking as a way to kind of augment that.
Yes, right. So the person that you're stalking, you are tracking the way they go about making decisions and tracking many things about the person. Sometimes, like in a shamanic way, the person would turn themselves into an animal that they're tracking, to kind of see how this animal would move, to know exactly what to do and how this animal would move, in fact, to give them information about the animal. Okay. Alright. Come prepared tomorrow morning, each of you, with a question that you would like to ask that creates further clarification for something. Okay? So let's just do Call Spirit. Let's practice Call Spirit chant, and then we'll wrap everything up for the night. So do we want this on the tape?
Do we?
Okay, yes. Sure. This will be for our listeners from wherever they are. Hello. All right. Okay. So that goes something like this. sense, and also about the reading. So, who would like to start?
You want us to ask our questions?
Yes.
Okay. My question is on page 3, on the vestibular paper. And it could just be semantics, or it could be that I don't understand it.
Yeah.
The middle sentence of the first paragraph that starts, it should be noted here that the dynamic and static labyrinths provide contextual submodalities enabling degrees of robustness.
Excellent.
Okay, so it's contextual submodalities is what I'm looking for.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Does everybody understand that question?
No, I mean, yes.
Okay. Right. What is it about the static labyrinth and the dynamic labyrinth in the vestibular system that provides the robustness of our experience?
And the contextual submodalities, that's really what
Okay.
I'm looking for an explanation
Okay.
of that.
All right. So, for instance, if you move a picture away, being able to move a picture away from you to feel comfortable, or to bring a picture closer to you, bringing that picture closer in, okay, out and in, are vestibular submodalities which are providing a robustness of the senses, okay. You turn the volume up, or you turn the brightness up, okay. Up is vestibular. Up is providing a robustness, okay. The vestibular system is providing the energy, the electrical activity, how much electrical activity is going to be there, and whether there's going to be equilibrium there or not. So when designing submodality interventions, there's the vestibular system that's providing the robustness of the intervention. So, for instance, you might need to slow something down, which is again vestibular, or speed something up, pace it into the unconscious mind. That's vestibular. And if you are just joining things together like and, then it's only using part of the vestibular system, the static labyrinth. The static labyrinth is that anatomy inside my head which enables me to be able to stand, on one foot still, okay? Whereas the semicircular canals are that part of me that enables me to be able to balance while moving. And when you use that word while or during or as, you're bringing in the semicircular canals, that part of balance which is involved while moving. And so you're bringing in much more of the vestibular system. That's why when you're using a word like while or as this occurs, that's a very strong way to join things together in the language. And the reason why is because it's bringing in the other part of it's bringing in the submodalities of the semicircular canals in the vestibular system.
And when you say that it's bringing in more of the vestibular system, do you mean more in terms of more of the anatomy?
Yes, because if I'm just joining things together with and, it's just joining things like this, whereas while is bringing in movement whilst something is occurring, something else is occurring. It's bringing in the semicircular canals.
And the static labyrinth?
Right, yes.
So you're involving more of the anatomy, more structure.
Yes.
Okay.
And do you want to know something? When you are joining things together with while and as and during, okay, as a hypnotist, the things that you're joining together are going to be much, much, much stronger, because they're going to, something's happening, there's an overlap of something else happening. So cause and effect is much more.
Thank you very much.
Okay. A good question, Jenny.
I have a sentence that's very helpful. It's on page 1 of everything, and on the technicians, very beginning.
Of the technicians.
I'll just go ahead and read it.
Yeah.
Whole brain functioning outlines a communication model for understanding and using vestibular submodalities to discover how an individual thinks by observing full body movement patterns, linguistics, and eye accessing cues.
Okay.
And also, this training is in keeping with the expressed interest of evolving consciousness through a process that emphasizes one's own internal resources. evolving consciousness. I wanted you to say a bit about that.
Okay. Just the same as 2,000 years ago, people were getting used to the idea that God was in each person, and nearly 5,000 years before that, people were developing the concept of I, as a result of language being written. Because before this time, everything that was passed down through story. It's much more difficult to turn your hearing off. But the minute that something was written, the laws were written, I could decide not to look at that if I didn't want to. And the integrated concept of I started to form then. And so there's an evolution of consciousness moving us more away from not having choice and seeing my individuality to sensing my individuality. And with this left hemisphere programs and things, an ability to use the left hemisphere in conjunction with the right through language, consciousness has evolved. And this is an evolution of consciousness. The language of peace is an evolution of consciousness because it's what creates whole brain functioning. We're understanding today how, when you're listening to someone, whether they're using whole brain functioning or they're using limited brain function. The use of the vestibular system is very important in the use of direction, because hopefully we're moving toward those things that you are loving, and you're bringing those things in close. So toward and in close is all about wellness and moving away and distancing self from stuff that you'd love to distance self from. This is the way to use direction.
So also this consciousness is the mass consciousness on this planet, as well as mine, I think.
Yeah. So I always think the other person is me, actually. And whenever I hear this I always sense it as having a social context. Yeah.
I would think that evolve and involve are vestibular predicates.
Yes, So the vestibular system, all the senses feed into the vestibular system. And you can imagine the vestibular system is seeking equilibrium for us. It's continuously wanting to seek balance and equilibrium. So if something was overloading in the brain, it would just close that out somewhat to keep equilibrium there. That's how senses sometimes are deleted from a person's experience.
What's driving the reticular activating system?
The vestibular system feeds directly into the reticular activating system. The reticular activating system in the brain is that part in the brainstem which enables us to be alert. It's if you were asleep and your baby started to cry or something like that, or whimper, it would be what it is that's tuned at that level. It's like the reptilian complex of the brain. All the functions of a reptile, basically, you can imagine to be kind of housed there. The reticular activating system is that aspect of our neuroanatomy which enlivens everything else.
Or dampens.
So
that's the mechanism? Yes. The vestibular system is seeking balance and needs to kick some stimuli out to prevent overload. It does it through activating the reticular activating system.
Yes.
The reticular activating system then stops the impulses coming in.
Yes, like for instance, someone who's afraid, of heights, for instance. Okay, this person, the way the person's afraid of height is that they're imagining. It's possible that they're imagining that they're falling, and yourself. If you read the paper, those things that you imagine and those things that are real, the body perceives the same way. So it's very interesting that people could feel that, I'm in danger or something like that. It's very funny to me a little bit, because there really isn't anything that's involving anything other than safety out there. However, it's okay that a person's sort of imagining that they're in a dangerous situation because they're eliciting a physiology, which they're going to be walking through, and this physiology is possibly the same as it would be out there in the real world, where somebody's feeling, oh God, I don't know whether I can do this, and then you've had the experience of moving through something that you fear, and gaining much greater expanded sense of self as a result. So the person up in the elements that's afraid of heights, let's say that they imagine that they're falling, and that's going to stiffen up the musculature like this. They're imagining that they're falling, so they've got to be up in visual construct. Now, if they're in visual construct, they're starting to lose varying degrees of touch with the external world, because up here, up to the left, is visual memory. And it's visual memory which enables me to match the things that are on the outside with what I'm understanding, that I've seen before. So it's visual memory that's connecting me with the external world. And if the person's in visual construct, constructing this image of falling, right, and it's scaring the person a little bit, it's creating a corresponding reflex in the body, stiffening up the body. It depends on the person's coping style. Some people they'll create a degree of kind of plasticity and they'll hardly be able to do anything at all. Others will be very rigid, wanting to act but not wanting to act. So antagonist and protagonist muscles are being activated, and so the muscle becomes stiff. And if the person then is talking to themselves about it and using this quadrant down here, down to the left, right, then they're really losing degrees of touch with the external world, because they're going further inside. They're in visual construct, which is internal. They're talking to themselves down here, and so they're using this vector, and then and in using this vector, this is the use of the vestibular system is affecting this constellation, and that this constellation through the vestibular system is kind of knocking out visual memory and my ability to sequence things down over here. And so that's generally kind of the strategy that's happening out there. So possibly if someone kind of was in that situation. So what could you do yourself if you were in that situation? You could go back up into your visual memory, and you could go back down into your feelings, and you could make sure that these two channels are alive and open, and that you're feeling connected up there, really solidly connected up there.
Okay. Volunteer as a resource bank. Does that mean? I mean, I'm simply thinking about myself. You're talking about the house.
Yes.
And I have some ambitions.
Yes.
I'm really keen on my resource space and really chaining them for the high elements. Is that, or is that too much internalization?
No, I think it's right that somebody might be a little preparing themselves inside, and the more that you are feeling ease as we go through this, Dave, the more likely it is, in fact, if you were going to make a major purchase in your life, or if you were going to change business and there was some calculated risk involved, then allow this to be similar. And the more the ease with which you can go into this, the more likely it is, in fact, that you can handle this other stuff out there in life as well. And know from us that you're perfectly safe up there. And if you could imagine just like being only this high up off the ground and walking around, it's going to be the same. And we're going to be having you on a piece of paper which Annie's going to be giving to you. It's called Tickets to Ride. And on that Tickets to Ride, there's going to be a column for resources and a column for stuck states. And you're going to be thinking about things, in fact, that remind you of your resourcefulness, and things that are reminding you of your stuck state. And then us on the ground, we're going to be practicing what we've learned to wire in things. In fact, as you're moving and you're in balance, we'll fire off stuck states. And when you're in need of bringing balance, to the movement, that we're able to remind you of your resourcefulness. Okay, so we're going to be doing that as well. Okay.
David, I have two more questions. Is this a good paper? Unless somebody else has already wants to.
No, go for it, Jim. Go for it. Yeah.
Page 14. It's more of just, I'll read the sentence. It is conjectured here that movement correlated with one's senses stimulates neocortex areas, activating ferromagnetic channels, which inspire myelination from the brainstem through to the periphery of the neocortex.
Yeah.
What I wanted to know is when you say it inspires myelination, you mean it like activates myelination? You just use that word there?
It inspires.
Yeah. How does it, yeah, it
Yes.
inspires myelination.
In other words, we worked with a woman last night in a swimming pool, Jenny and I did, and it's important that we're starting now to get her to have this cross-modal functioning while she's swimming, and that she has the ability to sustain this, right? Because this cross-modal functioning is going to send neural pathways through the brain coordinating and connecting again. Mostly the myelinization that's going to occur, there's also going to be glial cells migrate to support this function occurring again in the brain. And when we first see through our eyes, this starts to get neural pathways going back through to the occipital lobes when we're yay big. The more that we are seeing things, in fact, the more these pathways are innervated. The more the child kind of moves and things like that, and climbs and balances and stuff, the more that these neural pathways are being innervated. And that's one reason why people have a defective pleasure system. Especially in cities, people have grown up in a city environment, didn't have much opportunity to kind of be running and jumping and kicking and doing all that sort of stuff, right, and climbing. What we know today is that it's more likely that there's the possibility there that this person grows up to have a defective pleasure system. And schizophrenic conditions and most inhibitory and aversive conditions are all as a result of a little bit of a defective pleasure system somewhat. And anyway, we can increase this. This is, the brain is really functionally plastic quite incredibly. We have the ability truly to increase this by what we do, by having a value for laughter and having a value for smiling and humour and lightheartedness and truly being a bearer of good news to people.
So the wiring that you're saying that movement correlated with one's senses stimulates neocortex areas. Okay, get all that. Activating ferromagnetic channel, kind of that. Inspire myelination from brainstem through to the periphery of the neocortex. So the information's coming up through the brainstem?
Yes. So the small baby, its neural pathways are growing from the brainstem up through all the way to the cortex. And the left hemisphere is the most peripheral of our anatomy. And it's kind of the last to get these projections all the way through, which is the pyramidal cells, and they're very long. They grow all the way up into the motor cortex strip, right? And they go all the way back down into the brain, all the way into the brainstem.
Up and back down.
I mean, they grow from the brainstem up, and finally they reach the mantle. And so this is occurring all the way through life mostly, and it mostly is still occurring quite incredibly all the way up until late 20s. And we still have the ability somewhat to continue this right through life, that you're developing skills,
So is that why sometimes with children there's like an age, like you might present information or a task to a 4-year-old, and then 4 or 5 months later they haven't practiced the task at all, but all of a sudden they can do it, they can understand like math?
Yes, the right hemisphere processes from the Gestalt. It's understanding all things. That learning through the right hemisphere is like the child learns language. Doesn't have to have language to learn language. It's learning it much more through a holistic approach. Whereas adults learn much slower, because they're learning it through language, which is a much slower function. It's like somebody learning to play the piano and doing it by reading music. This can be very slow. But if the person was to learn to play the piano by learning just a little tune and then expanding on that, and then expanding on that, and then they're absolutely playing beautifully, right from the start, actually. Rather than learning this note, da 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 da, or something like that.
Okay. One more question. One more question now. On page 16.
I hope everybody has a little bit of a question, on this reading, on the readings.
Okay, 16, the last sentence, I'll read it. The sentence just doesn't make sense to me. The basic rest activity cycle for parasympathetic and sympathetic for right-left hemisphere activity.
Okay, do you know understanding that first? The basic rest activity cycle, okay, that's sleep and wakefulness. That's horizontal position and the vertical position. Okay.
Okay. Parasympathetic or sympathetic.
Okay, so what is the parasympathetic nervous system?
The rest cycle.
It's the aspect of ourself which is above the thoracic region, the neck, all the nerves taking in the neck, and all the nerves from here down. The anus and the sphincters that are happening down there. Okay, from here up and from here down, just to here. Okay. All right. This is all parasympathetic activity. The parasympathetic nervous system is what relaxes you. Sympathetic activity is what stimulates you. Okay. All right. And okay. So now what we know is from research is that the right hemisphere is a little bit more involved in parasympathetic activity, and that the left hemisphere is more involved in sympathetic activity. So the right hemisphere is a little bit more involved in rest and relaxation, and the left hemisphere is a little bit more involved in activity. Okay, Jen, go ahead.
Okay, so right and left hemisphere activity. Due to the electromagnetic interaction we have with the universe.
Where's that now?
On the 16 it starts. You just read that sentence. It seems to me like there's something, a phrase left out or something that's connected for me.
Okay, now the ethmoid organ, located behind the back of the nose, is festooned with the body's own natural lodestone crystals. That's completely orientated to magnetic north. Okay? And it enables a person, if a person was tracking out through the bush that way, okay, without having to completely always be sensing the direction that they're going in, there's an unconscious process that's enabling them that this is set like a switching setting mechanism that's occurring in the brain. The ethmoid organ also picks up micro pulsations coming through from the Earth's and the atmosphere, and the way that the Earth resonates. Right, the ethmoid organ is picking up these micro pulsations that help tune various organs and various functions in the body. For instance, at 4 o'clock at night, this is when mitotic division occurs. Majorly it occurs during this period of time because the DNA in the nucleus of the cells and growth hormone is released. It's all released as a result of the micro pulsations being just perfect at that moment for this to be released. The basic rest activity...
This needs a verb.
Needs something.
Needs a verb.
Yeah.
Okay, where is that?
Top page 17.
The last 3 words on page 16.
The basic rest activity cycle.
Or I understand everything, and then when you
A
say due
or
to the
B or C, we have with the universe.
If something is due to something,
Our functions we share with the universe.
Oh, yes, okay. You know something? There's something left out here on this paper. Okay.
So it's
gee, what a shame. All of that's missing. Yes, that's true. There's quite a bit in there that's missing. The basic thing that's missing from this paper, I don't know, the machine has just done that or something, I don't know, the computer. The thing that's missing is, first of all, the parasympathetic activity very much is involving rest, which occurs when you lay down. When you stand up, which is the vertical position, all right, tonus is increased, and a person becomes more into an alert state because the tonus in the body is creating this alertness. The main thing there, I'm starting actually to talk about time, and it's interesting, there's quite a bit, I think, missing. Quite a bit, actually. It's maybe even a page or something. The vestibular system is that organ that's involved in time, enabling us to be able to tell time. And the basic way that we tell time somewhat is through this rest and activity cycle that's occurring in the body, night and day. Time basically is movement through space. That's what time is. Okay. And what enables us to perceive movement through space is the vestibular system that's involved in this. So if you would say during or while or before or later on, that's involving a time distinction, and this is involving the vestibular system. Anyway, there's some other stuff in there too. I think that we'll just have to make sure.
I could just tell there was a missing.
Yeah, okay.
That's the referential index.
Yeah, okay.
I have a question. Page 26.
Page what?
26.
Okay, so hopefully these questions are kind of really helping us become more aligned with what the vestibular system is.
It says on the very first sentence, behavioral change agents have emphasized language in accessing specific behavior. This route emphasizes neocortex, limbic, thalamic direction. However, the most habituated unconscious behaviors tend to be initiated by hierarchically lower brain structures.
Yes.
My question is, what are these habituated unconscious behaviors? What kind of stuff is that? And what are these hierarchically lower brain structures?
Yes, okay. All right, first thing is that out there, the major emphasis for change has been, to talk to you, right? And actually it's a cognitive neocortex type patterning approach to get at the change, right? However, what we're realizing is that all habituated learned behavior is arriving from the brainstem up rather than from the neocortex down. So from the neocortex down certainly is a path. However, I think that a major way of bringing about the change truly is to work from the brainstem up. So working from the brainstem up is like you see somebody painting, and they're painting their dream. This is like the emergence of fields who are starting now really to be working from the brainstem up, actually, like drama therapy, where a person actually acts out something, or like all of the kinds of things that we're doing here, where we're totally interested completely in what the movement component is. That's all we're really interested in, mostly. And actually everything is the sum of something moving, actually. So we're totally interested in where spatially this thing is, how far away it is, how much ease is being felt in the body, which is to do with the movement and of everything together or apart or whatever. So everything truly is the sum of something moving, and what we are really doing here, that we're emphasizing, is, it's no good, the person talking cognitively about pride. It's just not going to cut it. It may eventually cut it, right? But what we're saying is, we're emphasizing, hey, put your shoulders back, put the heart out. Then you're going to feel pride, for sure. It wouldn't matter how much cognitive neocortex type patterning we talked about pride. There's no way that you're going to feel pride unless you put the shoulders back and the heart out. So it wouldn't matter about somebody talking about being light-hearted and you see them stomping around the room, Better off checking out what it is that's happening with the body, actually, and shaping those things that you can actually see